So back in studio, I guess. Always fun to be here. I literally, when I did the setup now, I listened in the background and I was like, through the monitoring, I can pick up some bird sounds from the outside. And when you get all the sounds and feedback from studio equipment, it's always super annoying. But then I thought to myself, what a beautiful sound it is actually to hear the birds. So if it's annoying you, I think if you can hear it in the first place. I can't. I'm obviously tuning into very minute sounds in the back end, and you must probably listen to this on different equipment, so you don't always pick up the background noises and sounds. Maybe just my cough and movements in the studio. Apologies for that. But if you pick up the bird sounds, I'd say enjoy it. Here we go.
Welcome to yet another episode of Not Yet Mature, the podcast series talking about life and business, the mix between the two, and hopefully allowing the entrepreneur and founder to find some insights of what the path looks like, or rather should look like ahead. XCAP has a vision that the ethical business that is formed around servitude and relational transactions should be given the advantage to exit the finite space and enter the infinite games. This, collectively, is our mission and our goal. Without further delay, let's dive into today's chat. Here with me, your host, founder of Exemplo Capital, Dion Richter. Like and subscribe. You know, the usual.
So imagine you're a barista and you know how we love our coffee business model chats. So let's kind of stick to the script on this one. So two people walk into your cafe. It's not a joke. It's not going to be one of those, or one is a Jew and one's a rabbi. Two people walk into your cafe. You can imagine them however you see fit, I guess, at the end of the day. So one is a tourist and the other one is a regular from across the street, right? They're both buying coffee, but they're not the same customer. If you treat them as one, you'll kind of lose both, or risk losing both, I guess, at the end of the day. Cohorts allow you to see the difference clearly. Therefore, and people in customer relationships or experience or journey, however you may call them, listen very closely. Cohorts allow you to see the difference clearly, therefore manage them, or rather their expectancy in relationship differently, without having to change your offering. So without further ado, today we're going to talk about cohorts. Okay, this is a word that, we use a lot. We make reference to it a lot, especially in our sales and marketing. Sales and marketing, this is key. But in entrepreneurship, starting a business, and actually working in a business that has the same value offering to all its clients. Like maybe you have a certain service that you offer, and it's the same service. It's maybe tweaked to the rendering, like financial services, legal services, things like that. But your customers are completely different, and you still are in the position to build a bigger kind of like client pool moving forward. And you'll see everyone just advertises, we offer these services and everything like that. They speak one language, and it can be way, way, way more effective. So if you're in the position to, offering services, that's the same kind of like black and white, boring services, boring businesses, and you want to change your approach to customers and managing customers, and especially marketing to them, listen to today's episode. I think you find that kind of like, important. A cohort is simply a group of people who share common characteristics over a set period of time. In business, it usually means grouping customers by the moment they joined, the product they bought, or even the behavior they demonstrated. When I mentioned the word cohort, I'm certain you're getting a bit sick to the core, like sighing, like we get it, it's important. So let me use today's episode for two main reasons. Number one, or purpose one, is to know you a bit more. Kind of want to get under your skin with this one. And the second one is to really just get behind the science and scope behind cohorting and behind it all, and hopefully give you a nugget or two that you can use, or maybe you knew something and you just want amplified on how to apply that. Before you think this is only relevant to marketing and e-commerce, you're dead wrong. If you're a business, said it before, working in a business, offer a service or product to a customer or client once or recurring, this is for you. So if you're ready, I didn't think so, let's jump in today. Now, Harvard Business Review points out that cohort analysis is one of the most accurate ways to measure retention and CLV, which is your customer lifetime value. Two metrics that predict long-term profitability, right? Mostly talking cohorts today, obviously, but also we're going to talk a bit about customer acquisition cost, servitude. Hopefully you will see how these things come together, intertwine. Cohorting is managing towards that CLV. And at the end of the day, you want to serve into each cohort, right? So it really does come together well. And there's different corporate relationships within different cohorts that we'll also experience today. So yeah, I think it's to amplify one another and needs to form part of your basis. And at the end of the day, I think it needs to form part of your company's foundation. In previous content and webinars, we have spoken so much about how it's your own responsibility to equip yourself with extended knowledge, life skills, soft skills, however you want to call it. Bartering, trading or selling needs to have the core understanding of this principle. But why? Why are cohorts so important? So let's take the mission, and later on I will take some practical pointers. And I think initially they'll come from a point of frustration or complaints, but hopefully there's a message in there that you can, it's from a practical point of view, right? It's from what I perceived, experienced, and I want to bring that message through at the end of the day. So things that I've learned from or experienced with various companies and companies that we know. The mission of a company is to take its product or service to a market. Although companies can offer endless lists of products or services, for example, Yamaha, I shared something on Yamaha the other day on social media, I found it very funny. They will sell anything from an opinion to a saxophone. And they surely have an opinion about sax. Or companies like Samsung, known as a competitor to Apple, but they're selling hundreds, if not thousands of products, where Apple is really limited to a couple of products at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, the point is every company usually can define what they are selling. They can define that. Some with longer lists and some with shorter, but it's definable. So at the end of the day, the person buying, also known as the market, meaning humans, we, however, are a bit more complex than the list of products. Our complexity mostly is because of our uniqueness, boiling down to our behavior, which, yet again, designed by our emotions, circumstances, and psychological factors. Side note, this is why sales will always be a psychological game. But this means that since our behaviors are so unique, our buying behavior or product interest always differ. From the same list, it differs. It means that often we buy for different reasons and do not buy for different reasons. And when we cohort our products and services, but also cohort our audience and track their behavior and responses to our agenda, we seem to get a bit more value out, actually a lot more value out, and build better relationships at the end of the day. We said it before. MVP or minimum viable product or service is not about what you package, but all about the consumer's expectation, expected value, and expected experience with the product. Now, cohorts help us to repackage the existing brand and message and repackage it differently so that it reaches its potential owner more effectively. Side note, let me give you a very practical example, and I don't even know why I'm explaining this because it makes sense. We don't want to explain what a cohort is. We want to explain how to use it more effectively and the purpose of it. But let's say all of us love a smartphone. I think whether you're an Apple user or an Android user, you'd still love to get the latest, let's say, iPhone or latest Samsung. It doesn't matter. You won't definitely mind. But each of us, when we get a present for Christmas or whatever, we wrap it differently. We wrap it uniquely. Our message is differently, and we give it on different. Some people, when they do Christmas, they do evening before, morning of. Some people like to wrap things exquisitely. Some people like to joke around and just use newspaper, whatever, but we wrap it differently. The message behind it is differently, but it's the same product at the end of the day. And that's what we're doing, is we're taking this offering, the value offering, and through its packaging and through its communication part, we make it unique to the recipient of that package, right? So think about it, the basics. Age and gender. To age and gender, you advertise differently, completely differently. And that's just on those two. And then sometimes it's because your product was designed for only one cohort. You might be wrong, right? If you think that, but let's be honest. You sometimes sell condoms. I guess condoms at the end of the day was designed with one cohort in mind, and then later on, the effectiveness of marketing and selling it, we soon discovered that there's multiple cohorts in that space at the end of the day. I don't think it's by accident that I use condoms as an example here. We're actually going to, in the next episode, talk about something unique in the business industry that I learned from the World Health Expo within condoms specifically that blew my mind, and I loved it. In any case, so sometimes your product was designed for only one cohort. The end user cohorts might be very restricted, but the influencer and buyer is not always the end user. Now, let me quickly explain this through my experience. N3YH. Literally, take those 3 letters from one number. N3YH. Please forgive a husband and Afrikaans boerseun for any mispronunciations on this brand. I have, for the life of me, read their story about 8 times to see the origin of the name, and no luck. If it's a Cape Town thing, if it's a New Age thing, if it's a millennial thing, I don't know, that's obvious of the name, I apologize, I don't know. So I'm just going to make reference to it, and I'm certain I'm 100% wrong, and if I'm not, then I guess that's the story on its own. But for the life of me, I have no idea the origin of the name, and I'm open to lectures and corrections here. But okay, back to them. N3YH. This is a company that offers the best quality in women's sleepwear, loungewear, and activewear. Okay, I say the best. Gents, even ladies, trust me on this. This is a company for women. To my understanding, it's run by women and completely entirely just for the female audience, right? This is a statement, my statement, not an opinion. So get off your horse. This is not the story. The story is this. I am not the person of this brand, or a brand rather in this sphere. So I cannot talk on their marketing and operational behalf, but I can only talk about an experience point of view, my experience point of view, and this is where the story is coming from. My experience point of view as a consumer, but also from an opinionated place as a business consultant. But this is a type of company that would never in their life naturally market to me as a cohort. This is my opinion. Yet, as mentioned in this podcast, a cohort is not always the end user, but sometimes the buyer or the influencer. Influencer, I'm not talking about social media influencers, but also them. I'm talking about influencer as in someone who influences decision making. That's where the term influence comes from. When we look at social media influencers, they're influencing you to take a decision into buying into certain lifestyles, products, or services. And it's not a social media term, it's actually a business term. When, especially in sales, when you talk to people, you either talk to the decision maker or the influencer who influences the decision maker at the end of the day, right? If you're trying to sell something into a marriage, the husband might be the decision maker, but we all know who the influencer is at the end of the day. So the buyer is not always the end user or the user, and vice versa. You get the drift. So they, in 3YH, did not come across me, understandably so. So their CAC, their customer acquisition cost, is, well, R0, or at least R0 initially, and then later 10% of next product purchases. This is for recurring revenue or recurring sales at the end of the day. However, a bit more about that later. The point is, I came to them. Why? I'm a husband, and in a lot of areas, stereotypically so. In one specific area is I forget or lack advanced planning of dates and anniversaries. So at best or at most, I have 3 to 5 days to source a present, plan the event, anything like that. But I never forget the date, I guess. Just forget planning towards a date. I think so. In any case, round 1. Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day deserves something more sexy than usual. We're new in Cape Town, so at last I get to this amazing company. Bought the product, got the product, and gave the product. Playing the middleman in the transaction chain here. And some facts to this stage. It cost them R0 to acquire me. I'm not in their typical customer persona. My wife did not influence me to buy this product, truth be told. She had no idea this or they existed. And something similar, meaning something similar to the brand or product, was not on her wish list. So now, all of a sudden, I am a customer. Not a user, but a customer. I bought the product. I loved it. My wife loved it. And there was nothing weird or cool about the customer experience. Yet it was purely transactional. Reminder, transactional as it was not an influenced by or necessity by or something like that. Now, I need to add, usually in this category, because of the price, but also value and type, it's a bit difficult to also bargain on recurring customers. Yet, still now, I was seen as a customer. So, part of their social journey onward is that now I am obviously part of a customer acquisition equation. Quickly explain, because I'm a customer, I'm part of their mailing list. In the mailing list, there goes fees to design, fees to market, the fees to push cookies on social media when I Google anything. So there's fees associated. So there's a cost to acquiring me, or at least a CLV cost to keeping me lifelong to a certain value as a customer. All right. And with that, we usually boost the first one of a percentage off a next order to get that acquiring cost lower by increasing the revenue. Basic business. But lessons to this point. Whenever you sell anything, know that your user is not always your buyer, and vice versa. And B, sometimes initial sales can come at zero cost, but it doesn't mean recurring does. Entrepreneur, you need to take notes here. It's basic, but we forget this. Sometimes that your initial sale can come at zero cost, but it doesn't mean that your recurring sales will have zero cost or zero effort towards it. Now let's move now to the last week of August, yes, aka round 2. That was round 1, Valentine's Day. Last week of August, September 3rd is my anniversary, or as I like to call it, my wedding reunion. Actually serious. I call it a reunion and I actually have no clue why. So stereotypically again, 6 days before the time, I remember this. And in that week again, I saw the N3YH post of new launches that they brought out. Loungewear PJs. It's apparently a thing. Ladies, you might know this. I have no idea. In any case, it's a thing. And a faded kind of like discount coupon I had was dusted off. I read the delivery note. It said 2 to 3 days to deliver. And before you know it, it worked the first time around. My wife loved it. That was a short PJs. Now it's longer loungewear PJs. We've got Cape Town winters and colder nights is a real thing. So why not? Boom, orders up. Now the next part of the story is going to start off as a complaint. It's actually not. It's the journey, the experience. So I'm saying it now because this company they are absolutely stunning in what they do and what they offer, and listen to how they helped out. Okay. So keeping in mind yet again that I'm one of the most difficult customers you will ever get. Not because of feeling the need to complain, but always seeking the opportunity to improve and keep people accountable for it. Trust me, you don't want to survey me, right? You don't want to send that random survey to me unless you understand where it's coming from. Then, of course, it's free advice from a award-winning business consultant. Then see it as you would. Comme c'est, comme ça. So I don't run to Karen Inc. or social media, nor throw scenes, but I do keep companies accountable as they should. I keep them accountable for their delivery, what they promise. And if you offer card payments and soft serves in 2025, you should offer it. McDonald's. If you offer gym environment and machines, your machine should actually be working. No cough needed here. We'll talk about that actually later in this podcast. So, eerste verkeerde voetjie. Failing on the actual delivery. In honest words, failing on your promise. When you present a company to the world, in this example, I want you to think in the form of a website, e-commerce, right? Because this is what it is. This was the experience. And always remember the rule of thumb. Deliver what you promise. We talked about it extensively in one of the previous episodes. Building a business in 2025. This is the foundation of the build. So if you show stock, there needs to be stock. If you show a certain price, that offering exists. If you show delivery time, you need to fulfill it. If you show product features, reviews, remarks, it needs to be valid. Deliver what you promise, period. No exceptions. So I place my order. 2-3 days is the promise, and I continue out of the anniversary box and into the worker box. Fast forward, morning of the 3rd of September, it's anniversary day. Not only did the package not arrive yet, I noticed I never actually received an order confirmation or waybill, just the purchase confirmation from the card merchant. Quickly email them, what's up? Should I drive through to collect? Where can I help? Received a reply. It's a technical error. Order overwhelms, new stock, etc. The whole shebang. Now quickly pause there. Errors happen. We work with technology. Tech is designed to disappoint. But we also work with humans. This company did nothing wrong deliberately. They admitted on an error and asked for more time to fulfill. All valid, all good, kind of. It's a problem for me. First of all, did not deliver on a promise, whether intentional or not. Meaning A, this affects me personally. Now, the next actions is what I found honorable in terms of cohort management. I see this as cohort management. And I'm not saying this is what you should do to everyone, nor am I saying they do it differently to anyone else. But what I do know, whether intentional or not, they treated me by means of a different cohort strategy. I guess any user or buyer cohort, the two in one, the user and buyer, right? AKA people buying for themselves, would have understood the situation and accepted its fate or terms, regardless of momentarily frustration, but would have said, okay, waited for their order, and if ever, by the time they want to buy again, this one case scenario would not impact the next sale. Worst case, maybe you get a bad review, which actually can be managed because you can actually, like, before the bad review happens, say, here's your order, and because we stuffed up, here's 5% off. You would have in any case given 10% off, but just word that marketing different, and it will all be fine, right? So for example, if I bought my wife a voucher from them and she used the voucher to buy something, or told her to choose anything she wants, obviously within a budget, and the story unfolded the same, the weight and error would be most probably of zero issue. But for me, it's different, because if I cannot trust the delivery on time for special occasions in this cohort, in this mind space that I am, the product experience becomes irrelevant. And the next time I want to buy or need to buy presents, psychologically, I would completely disregard them as an option. Meaning, I could completely forget about this, but the option to choose them would not exist anymore. And it's kind of unfair that with certain cohorts, the experience becomes the value offering. Kind of like, sorry, I won't say the experience becomes the value offering, and that's in most cases. I'm saying the unfair part is that the pre-product experience, the pre-sales experience becomes the value offering. Becomes the value offering over the actual MVP itself. But that is exactly why we cohort, and why each cohort has a different communication and handling style and sequence. So, what cohort was I in this instance? The user? No. The buyer? Sure, but further. The buyer that will A, never be a user, B, is not influenced by the user, and C, bought from a point of ease. AKA knowing the quality, knowing it's worth the price, knowing it will work, and therefore save me time to continue with other things. So basically buying the promise, or into the promise, or rather the convenience of the promise. The cohort of a husband buying for a wife, but the wife completely thankful, not expecting nor asked for the specific product. In other words, stuff up this time. Unfortunately, the rest will not matter. It surely cannot. Failing on a delivery promise means CLV is now 0. Unless, of course, it meant guaranteed sex. I'm married, allowed to say it. I think then it will always be the go-to, I guess. But on a serious note, you know what they did? They bypassed their courier sequence and bypassed their regular shipping and logistics. They ordered an Uber and personally delivered the item in time on the day of our anniversary. Now let's be honest, you cannot do this for every client, nor should you. The point is not this specific case. The point is the general direction. They surely sacrificed their agenda, their profits and more to regain my trust and fulfill on the extended promise. You communicate differently to each cohort, or at least you should. Your risk plan or disaster management plan should also be sequenced differently for each cohort. Not each person. Like in this case, also notice how I mentioned sequence differently. You cannot bend the rules everywhere. It's not sustainable. For example, I'm sure they would have used Uber if, let's say, the courier companies or all courier companies in South Africa went for a strike. Then that would have been planned a part of the sequence, but just sequenced lastly in priority. But in this case, like moved it forward as an option. So please notice how I mentioned sequence differently. You cannot bend the rules everywhere. It's not sustainable. But the rules that exist, or the processes rather, should be prioritized and sequenced to best suit each cohort group. Team, N3YH, please reach out to me with your name and I'll will just say thank you on your proper name if that's not it. And please share your story on where the name came from. I'd actually love to hear that. But kudos to you. And gentlemen, next anniversary, you definitely know what to do. But then, of course, yes, there's something like selling to similarity. The same behaviors. Sorry, that was the end of the N3YH story. So go check them out. Koop vir die tannie. Okay, the wife, not the mistress, Itzy. Let's move on. Selling to similarity. This is obviously any company's dream. It's cheaper marketing, greater conversion ratio, less customer acquisition costs, greater CLV. It's the dream. But be true to yourself. This cohort is merely impossible, and when possible, it's highly competitive, which ironically forces us to seek additional motive in the consumer, meaning new cohorts or form of cohorts. I call the similarity the bread and milk cohort. And in the next episode, we'll actually use a case study from the World Health Expo, why this is a comfort zone and a very dangerous or competitive space. Why bread and milk, as humans, we have certain things we all need. We need food, we need water, we need certain things we all desire. More time, we desire more luxury. Plus, we are all susceptible to temptation. Because of these, products or services in this category have a low marketing budget, easier message, but it's very competitive, right? Think of online gambling now. They don't need to explain the first principle of what gambling is. They just need to make it lucrative. It's a temptation for earning more money in a lower income country, and therefore selling this luxury lifestyle. So the marketing is more expensive in terms of getting the brand out there, but it's not expensive to get the cohort. They don't need to reach me personally. I am in that cohort. Porn sites, they don't need to advertise. It's not only not because they're not allowed, they don't need to. The temptation's there. Milk ads only features next to the milk stand that you're already buying. But more on this later. Let's get the disclosure out the way. I'm not promoting pornography in any way, nor do I stand for it. Unfortunate truth is, because of our susceptibility to sin, I guess, the devil can approach us easier. And the side note, if this is you in this space and in this business, reach out to us. Would love to see where we can assist. Okay, great. Gone with the evil. Back to the ought-to-be kingdom business, I guess. So understanding cohorts and how to implement it, and better yet, how to manage it, is most probably the biggest solo importance in your company. So what is the purpose of cohorts? First one is retention over vanity metrics. Experts like Lincoln Murphy, who's a customer success strategist, say growth doesn't come from acquiring new customers. It comes from keeping the ones you have. Cohorts review who stays and why. Instead of looking at a flat revenue line, you look at the quality of that revenue. The second purpose is learning patterns. By grouping customers, you learn what behaviors predict success. For example, SARS research, not SARS as in the South African Revenue Service, SARS as in Software as a Service, research shows that customers who engage 3 times in the first week are 70% more likely to stay long term. That's why they push for that free 30-day trial. They push for all the benefits, the discovery call, everything that they want to in that first period, because they want to psychologically get you bonded into that. The third point is decision-making. Cohorts give leaders clarity on where to double down. If one group, we saw it in my example, right? If one group of customers thrives after a new feature or sales approach, you replicate it. Now, there are so many different types of cohorts. Guys, I cannot tell you, if there is a slightest behavioral feature, physical feature, location differential between two people, it's at least a sub-cohort within a cohort. As you move on, you can really complex things and it will really help you, but I won't say start with the complexity at the beginning. Start with the basics. Here's the basics. Acquisition cohorts. This is grouped by when customers join. If, for example, January signups, holiday signups, monthly signups, weekend signups, time, things like that, because then you can see, was it because of a result of certain things? For example, I've got a client that sells something I'm not going to mention too much. I quickly want to think of my words, but let's say in the health industry, and whenever on an international podcast they talk about areas within this health, he sees a spike in sales. It's got nothing to do with the business, not mentioning his product, not mentioning his name, nothing, but there is a rise in consciousness of this. So that time is important, right? Then we've got, so that's acquisition cohorts. Then we've got something that we call behavioral cohorts. This is based on how they use your product or service. I think you can check things like, do they log usage daily, monthly, weekly, things like that. So it's not always the how they use it, the why use it, but the frequency of use, I would say. So if you sell perfume, you can check when people bought it. Was it for anniversaries? You can check the gender thereof, and then obviously you can see if people, you do a survey, see if they use perfume daily, weekly, monthly. If it's a richer class and they use it daily, it's fine. But some people might still buy it. They might be still relevant to be a customer of yours, but the frequency of use would just, I'm thinking perfume now because I'm actually going to mention them later again. So that's the the demographic cohorts. That's the behavioral cohorts. And then you get demographic cohorts. This is grouped by the age, the region, the industry. This is very powerful in B2B sales, where industries move differently at the end of the day. Then I won't say the last one, but the last main character is the transactional cohorts. This is based on what they purchased. That they buy entry-level products, premium subscriptions. Just look at their actual transaction. A couple of experts, McKinsey, they are in consultancy. McKinsey is one of the biggest consultancy groups in the world, auditing consultancy. But McKinsey research found companies that segment by behavioral cohorts outperform peers in upselling and cross-selling by up to 25%. And then in those groups, you can expand as much as you like. Personally, I start with the basics as I do not know a customer. But as I continue to do business, that's why the relationship and the relational connection is so important. I start adding subcategories, usually directly linking up to their behavior. And I especially track down the reasons and behaviors when someone drops out to work on something, a strategy of sort to predict it in the future and kind of prevent it from, happening, I guess. Said it so many times, business is data and emotion. If you can read one and steer the other, you are right there. So how to read and interpret cohorts? Cohorts, let's start with a cohort analysis chart. Picture a grid. On the left is when the group joined, across the top is time, and the cells show retention or spend. You will see quickly if customers vanish after 1 month, or you'll see if they stick around until month 12. Now, what to look for? You need to look for where the drop-off happens. This is signals friction or unmet needs. Shows that obviously you didn't meet their needs. And what also to look for is which cohort performs consistently better, because this signals product market fit. Storytelling example that I can use is to say Netflix noticed early churn patterns. They saw that users who watched 3+ shows in the first week, mentioned before, rarely cancelled. And that's why they pushed personalized recommendations so aggressively. And that's cohort intelligence in action. So how do we manage different cohorts before we look at colorizing them? First of all, acquisition cohorts. Onboard them differently depending on when and how they came in. Customers acquired through discounts often need more nurturing, otherwise churn skyrockets. Behavioral cohorts, I would say reward high engagement. Reward high engagement users with exclusiveness. Re-engage low activity users with personalized nudges. Demographic cohorts, tailor messaging. Millennials may need emotional branding. Older cohorts might want practicality and trust. Transactional cohorts upsell differently. Starter plan users need proof before they upgrade. Premium users need ongoing value. Aaron Ross, author of Predictable Revenue, stresses that selling the same way to every customer is the fastest way to kill growth. Cohorts let you sell like a sniper, not a shotgun. Here's the truth. Most companies drown in data, but starve in insights. Cohorts cut through the noise. They let you see patterns, adapt strategy, and most importantly, treat customers like humans and not like numbers. If you want to build a business that lasts, stop asking how many customers do we have and start asking which customers are staying and why are they staying. Because that's the heartbeat. That's the gold. Where does customer experience, corporate venturing, and CLV come to play? Let me give a breakdown from the willing companies and the takeaways from each. Kind of like my experience from each at the end of the day. Take Virgin Active, for example. For me, Virgin Active has got this two... when I say Virgin Active, I'm not talking now about the... kind of like from a customer point of view as well. But I'm looking at them from a business and business movement point of view. I'm very obsessed with their model and their existence. The point is, if it wasn't for certain corporate relationships, in my opinion, they shouldn't exist, right? The need for them exists, but the mere fact is they drop the ball more often than they actually pick up. They don't have that relational... In any case, I'm not going to list it. I'll have a private conversation. I'm not here to condemn them. I'm glad they're there. They employ a lot of people. It's good to be there, but their existence doesn't make sense in this competitive world that they are, apart from the fact that they're already franchised, have this great value offering with Discovery and all the health partners. And I think if it wasn't for those points, that's a point that I want to make. I don't see them actually existing. In any case, there's a lot that they can change to secure their role in the future moving forward. So, but take them, for example, on two corporate relationships that they have. One is a direct relationship, which I see is a poisonous one. They're pivoting their existence and experience on one's value offering. And I need to add that I don't know the behind the scenes. This is from my point of view. And the other one is I don't know actually and don't think that they are directly relationally connected or anything, but the two models make sense to one another. So let me get practical on this one. You go to, let's say Virgin Active is all their machinery, or most of their machinery is Technogym. Technogym is whether they belong to Virgin Active or there's a merger acquiring or anything happening in any of the model, that I don't know. But let's see them as two entities. The one is supplying gear, I guess, equipment, that's the right word, to the other entity. Now, if you go to them, I'm certain Technogym's got a warranty, product servicing agreement and everything in place with Virgin Active. Meaning sometimes if a machine is within warranty, it breaks down, they need to come and fix it or collect it or whatever, or someone at the Virgin Active needs to fix it if it's out of warranty or trained by the technical gym, or depending, there's a whole list. There's a communication there. But that communication is between Virgin and Technogym, and it's siloed towards the consumer. The consumer walks in there, they see a stupid sign, sorry, I'm out of order, on a Technogym. By the way, Virgin, you can literally just change the wording of that sign. The customer experience will be completely different. I loved it how they use on the cruise ships. The cruise ships is, we're on it. That's what they put on something that's broken. We're on it. Meaning, it's not, we know it's broken, but we're on it. Just change that wording. You'll complete, there's a freebie for today. In any case, so you get to this machine, it's super annoying. There'll be a sign and say out of order. Now, I've tracked it so many times. A treadmill will be out of order for, I'd say, minimum 2 to 3 days, which I don't understand how or why, but I've seen it there for weeks. I've actually mentioned it on other podcasts. Now, this is a relationship between Technogym and Virgin. The logical would be it either needs to be fixed or replaced by one of these entities. They must probably in communication with one another. That's why it's churning or turning so long. But the consumer, the end user, is unaware of that communication. All they see is this broken equipment the whole time. So for me personally, I would never want Technogym equipment in my house. That's the cohort relationship poison that I'm talking about, because whether they're at fault or not, and it's most probably my fault because I run on their gear, I most probably broke it. But the fact is, in my mind, I see their products standing in a breaking phase the whole time. And you can move around. It will be a treadmill, it will be a white bike, it will be different gear. And just because of how the two of those entities work with it together, I lose trust in Technogym's quality as an end user. So imagine 10 years along the line, I decide to open up my own gym franchise. Who do you think is the last people that I would want in my gym? And I'm going to say this very clearly. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with their quality, but just that communication and that experience makes me not trust in what they offer. That's a poisonous cohort relationship, just because of cohorting the non-communication. Virgin, on the other hand, the same. By showing me that they're not doing anything about this, I don't trust that this is the brand that's going to keep on good quality products moving along. This is how they should have fixed it. Number 1, change the sign. Number 2, give it 1 day. If in 1 day that thing is not fixed and you need to sort it out, remove it from the presence of the people. Completely move it away. Then stick to the accountability. If it's Technogym that needs to come fix it, keep them accountable towards it. And if it's within you, keep yourself accountable. And if your person on the floor is not fixing it, keep them accountable for their work. There needs to be accountability, communication, and just psychological action. If the machine at fault is not within the vicinity, no one on day 2 would care if that machine is there or not. 10, 20 days later, if there's a lack of treadmills and a longer queue, people would start complaining then again. But then once again, psychologically, you can fix that error. In any case. So that is 2 relationship cohorts that lacks communication to its customers, and therefore the customer loses trust in whatever they stand for. And it's not intentional. It's not even a quality or product thing. It's completely irrelevant. Keep that in mind when you build a business. That communication point that we talked about earlier on, that's how you communicate to each cohort at the end of the day. Then, I think, to mention so many negatives that at one stage I feel kind of bad, but let's vent and get it over with. I think that's the beauty of podcasts. That's not the intention. The intention is to get a takeaway from each. As I said, I'm not going to over-explain. You heard me. Go through it again. Reach out to me if you haven't. But in any case, so I bought my wife perfume twice this year. That's not the story. The story is I'm a user. It sounds like I'm a drug addict. I'm a user of a certain product, and I wanted to treat myself on a specific product, also for perfume, something just to use for businesses and things like that. Saved up for it, but the one that I specifically want is very, very expensive, and therefore, even if I save up for it, mentally I cannot justify buying it. I think the money can be so much useful for others and other people and other areas of the business and offering pro bono work, whatever the reason, just for that pure price point, I cannot justify it. So I walk into a very specific Woolies. They do the cosmetics. That's the same Woolies where I bought 2 of my wife's perfumes from. So same company, same store, same everything. And I walk in there, and every day I would choose a different perfume. Well, not every day. That sounds like I'm there the whole time. But when I'm there, I'll choose something different. I'll spray it on, and I would leave, and I would not tell my wife what I'm wearing or that I did spray something on. But based from a reaction, I would see if it's worth it to consider as a supplement to the one that I wanted. because the one that I want is very expensive, but we both love it and everything like that. But that's the psychology on how I use it. That's a user experience. Now, though, every time I walk in there, the people ask, like, how can we help? How can we help? Everything. But now I kind of feel like guilty of just walking in there spraying. And the one person came to me and says, how can I help? And I said, listen, I'd rather just explain this to you. I'm looking for X, so I'm not going to promote them. I'm looking for XYZ perfume. You don't stock it in store, but you do have it online. I know how I love it. I love everything about it, but it's very expensive. And I'm looking for a replacement, but you don't have something, or I don't think you have something similar. Now, this lady says to me, we definitely have something similar. Now, remember, I've been coming here for quite a while. I know she doesn't, but in any case, it's fine. She walks off, gets like 3-4 bottles, start with the one to spray it on one of those test strips. And I said, wait. Please don't do that. I said, how I would like it is I spray just once. Just give me one. I don't need to smell the others. Just one. I'm going to spray it on me. I'm going to walk out of here. Because based on the logic that I want, not my psychologically to influence my wife's decision, I don't want to see it from a reaction. This lady tunes me and says, no, this is how I do it. And already it's like, okay, but if I smell 2 or 3 now, my senses will be confused. I will just not know how to naturally compare it. I won't like it this way. And I said, do you mind if we do it my way? And she said, okay. She takes a one and she sprays it on the strip. And I said, no, I want to spray it on me. And I sprayed it and I do my whole spray thing. Now I know there's whole science and psychology. This lady in front of everybody goes off at me and says, you do not spray perfume like that. You do this and this and this and this. And I said to her, listen, I don't think we can ever work together. And I walked out and left. The point that I want to make here is at the end of the day, with any company, you need to understand that the customer experience, how they use and how they experience the product at the end of the day, that's the bartering factor. That is what people buy for. That is what they buy into. And all your training that you got from the experts in your sales and how to approach and how to correctly apply perfume, that is irrelevant unless when asked to educate. It's completely irrelevant. So what happened here is they missed not only a sale, they missed a recurring customer that will never in their life, just because of what they used me, go back there. Never. And because of this, they need to risk a very high, lucrative, I would say, customer acquisition cost. Like if they say to me, so this is a perfume we wanted, we apologize about that experience, then yes, then I would go back and say that. Let's be honest about it. Anyone will. This is not what this is about. This is to say it's not worth it. Because how often do you buy and what's the profit? The profit margins, actually, no, it's quite high on that. But the point that I want to make is just from that attitude, that experience, the customer acquisition cost of the CLV is completely irrelevant of moving forward. And I'm not saying you should boycott. Go to them. They've got good perfumes. They've got good. And as a matter of fact, there's a free advertising for them. I'm talking about the one-time experience. So this is because in that cohort of sales and cohort of customer experience, they were never trained on the customer's perception. They were always trained on the MVP, on their presence, on their product, but never about the customer perception. So, at the end of the day, cohorting by definition is the data. And to contradict myself completely, do I believe business is only driven on data metrics? I mean, most of our public speaking campaigns is now about psychological approaches over mechanistic approaches. So no, data is not everything. But metrics form part of behavior, and it's not often actually that great for total prediction. But it's very accurate on historic happenings. And history teaches. So I like to use metrics and data for behavioral collection points to analyze them. But then go to, the go-to-market strategy. The implementation is very often psychology over logic. For me, the starting point before going on implementation is obviously looking at different behaviors within cohorts, asking questions, getting the why, understanding the corporate relationship within the cohorts, the corporate experience, that entirety before I come with the psychological approaches. At the end of the day, getting the why. As mentioned earlier this year, one of the best tools to use, easy to use is the color metrics. I mentioned earlier that we're going to use this, right? So remember when I talked about surrounded by idiots? Yes, they're still amongst us. Have you ever walked into a meeting and think, we're speaking English, but we're not speaking the same language, right? We're going to fix that. We're not doing pop psych party tricks. We're building on top of the cohorting system from discovery to renewal using Thomas Erickson's 4-color model. I love that book. Read that book, man. And it's not to label people, but to serve them better. So buckle up. First thing I want to talk about is the ground rules before we touch the colors. 3 non-negotiables. So this doesn't become a personality horoscope. The first one is ethics over shortcuts. Colors are starting hypotheses, not final judgments. Treat them like weather forecasts, not birth certificates. Behavior over identity. We're profiling observable behavior in a specific context. How they show up in meetings, how they show up in emails, how they behave with sales, emails, demos, not who they are. The third rule is blends and situations. People shift under stress, power dynamics, or uncertainty. Expect blends, for example, a red yellow, and situational flips, calm in weekly checkings, fiery in crises. And if you weaponize colors to win arguments, you'll destroy trust. So use this to reduce friction, to increase clarity, and to customize service. So the 4 colors through a quick practical lens. This is the shorthand bridge to DISC. Red equals D, dominance. Yellow, influence. Green, steadiness. Blue, conscientiousness. So red, it's your direct, decisive, talks fast, bottom line first, impatient with fluff, motivated by progress, control, and results. I'm red, according to my wife. Yellow, this is your social visionary, big picture, story-driven, spontaneous, motivated by energy, by possibilities, by recognition. Green, steady and supportive, warm, careful, consistent, motivated by security, harmony, reliability. Your blues, you're analytical, you're precise, detail first, risk aware, structured. This is your spreadsheet people, motivated by correctness, clarity, by logic. Think of them as operating systems. Your job is to ship your message app in the compatible OS. Okay, so from book to system. Using the book into your system, how can I apply this to my cohorting pipeline? We're going to implement colors at each stage of your commercial journey. And let's make it a bit practical with what to do and assign them to actual days. So this is an example that I can use that you can practically use and see how you can implement them to use your color strategy with cohorting and in what days. So after all, this is the podcast for startups and entrepreneurs in their journey. So the first one is signal capture. This is day 1 to 7, day 0 to 7. Within your signal capture, what to watch in the first meeting, in the first call, what to email in the first email. So this is what you're capturing from your signal, from your first meeting, from your first appointment, from your first call, from your first email. Pace. If it's fast, meaning your red or yellow, versus measured, which is your green and blues. Your focus. If it's the focus is about the outcome, these are your reds. If the focus is about the possibilities, these are your yellows. If the focus is about the people and processes, it's about your green. If the focus is about your details or proof, it's the blues. Look at the type of language that they use. If they talk about results and ROI, meaning the outcomes, red. If they use words like it's exciting and imagining and envisioning, it's the yellows. The support, the team, it's the greens. The accuracy and compliance, it's the blues. Questions. If they've got few questions and it's blunt questions, it's red. If it's many and broad, it's yellow. If it's thoughtful and practical, it's green. If it's deep and specific, it's blue. Risk posture. If it's driven decision, it's red. Embraces new risk, it's yellow. Seeks conscientiousness, or consensus rather, it's green. And demands evidence, it's blue. So use the colors to assign colors to people's reaction on what you first see: the pace, the focus, the language, the questions, the risk. Listen to this again, or reach out to us and we can send you the list on how to look at it, or read the book. A tool is you can create a color triage card, a one pager for reps that you can give, and give them a check 5 quick cues. Assign primary and secondary color with confidence score, low, medium, high. Like, are you confidently saying this is how they are? Low, medium, high. Always add a counter hypothesis, the next likely color, to avoid tunnel vision. You want to say this is, according to you, highly they are red, but they most probably show certain attributes of a yellow as well. You don't want to get that tunnel vision. And then day 1 to 14, so in the same period of time but extending beyond it, you want to do your CRM instrumentation, and you want to start adding these fields to your CRM. You need to use a CRM. You want to use your primary color, your secondary color, your confidence, observe cues, and also free text. You want to do your stress color if it's visible, how they behave when squeezed. This is something that you won't necessarily experience now, but later on in your relationship journey, you want to see where the boundaries are. And if they squeeze, do they, it sounds weird, but when that reaction comes in, when that tech that you saw broke, or when that contract that you designed failed or whatever, and they just bust through your office, what color are they in there? You want to start cohorting with that as well. And you definitely want to put on your preferred channel. Like, do they prefer to be called, email, WhatsApp, in person? Their preferred cadence, decision style. You want to keep notes of all of this. Make them required after the first discovery call. Add a color audit stage gate before the proposal. Then there's the cohort definitions. You want to create cohorts you can track, like RYGB. You want to do the blends, your RY, your red yellows, which is a charismatic driver, your RB, red blues is your operational commander, your yellow green, your community builder, your yellow blue, your product evangelist, your green blue, who's your quality care, your green red, which is your team anchor. You definitely want a cohort if that's kind of like, showing. Then you want to, the cohorts that you want to track also is by stage. It's an early pipeline red versus a late pipeline red, because someone that initially shows red versus after the relationship or after the squeeze still red, shows you that consistency. But if they change, it also shows you that their behavior on sales or engagement or relationship might fluctuate and change, and you want to kind of like envision that. And then by role, obviously. Your red CFO is not always equal to a red founder. Functions definitely shapes expression. So I guess to close off today's podcast, there's a couple of things that we want to do. We want to give practical points on things that you can use within this cohorts. This is more for the sales and the startup. So if this is not you can definitely tune out. I'm going to do the show middle now just to remind everyone that you can tune out here. And then we're going to end it off with a ministry moment. So I want to give you some practical things that you can use to each color one. So let's take it from there.
This is Not Yet Mature, and you are listening to Dion Richter. Thanks for being here. Please subscribe to our channels.
So, let's look at the plays that win, the messaging, the meetings, and the materials by each cohort. So, first call openers might look something similar. This is in your red, your yellow, your green, your blue. For the reds, it will be like, in 30 seconds, we reduce your recon time by 22 to 28% across branches. If that's interesting, I'll show you how. Straight to the point, metrics, there we go. For yellow, it will look something like, quick story from a dealership like yours. They unlocked a new accessory revenue stream in 6 weeks. Want the 3 moves they made. That's kind of like we're going to go to. With the green, you'll look something into, we will go at your pace. I've got a clear step-by-step. We'll decide together what fits your team. For blue, the approach on the first call would be like, I've prepared a brief with assumptions, benchmarks, and methods. Shall we validate the model first? With meeting agendas, the reds, you'll do a 15-minute agenda, go through outcomes, obstacles, next steps, everything time-boxed. The yellow, you do a narrative arc, before and after, show the future state, ask for their ideas. With the greens, you'll do a people impact, a rollout plan, a risk mitigation, support structure. Having meetings with the blues, it's usually very easier. It's data hierarchy, proof points, cost benefit, compliance notes, and appendixes. With objection handling, the reds, you're right. That's the bottleneck. If we removed it in 2 weeks, would you move forward? Acknowledge their point, acknowledge their problem, get it out of the way, move forward. Point. With yellows, they object to anything. It's, I love that thought. Here's a creative workaround. 2 clients to use. So you get a creative workaround, factual, that happened within your clientele, and you use that. With greens, you need to hear them. Totally hear you. What would you help, or what would help your team feel ready? Would it be training, a pilot, or both? With the blues, the objection handling would be, here's a data set and method we used. What assumptions would you like to adjust together? Then I want to actually really want to do this. The proposal framing. With reds, how you frame a proposal would be a 1-page executive brief with an ROI calculator and a signature block. With yellows, a vision deck with a crisp summary, optional add-on ideas. With greens, you'll do a rollout timeline, roles and responsibilities, support plan, and testimonials. With blues, you'll do a detailed scope, SLA, a risk register, technical appendix, change control. Negotiation style obviously is also different. With red, you need to anchor hard, tie to outcomes, give concessions, or give concessions only for speed, rather. With the yellows, you can expand the pie, bundles, PR, co-marketing innovations, innovation pilots. With greens, you can de-risk, extended guarantees, phased draw out, white glove support. With blues, you can tighten precision, clarify definitions, clarify metrics and acceptance criteria. Then you've got your post-sale success that you want to definitely keep in mind. With reds, do quarterly business reviews, milestone dashboards, trophies for wins. With yellows, you can do beta features, user groups, stage times at events. With green, there's the health checks, the no surprise communications, continuity with the same CSM. With blues, audit trails, documentations, advanced reporting, governance councils. And I definitely say you need to color map the room. There's with multi-stakeholder deals. In B2B, you're not selling to a person, you're selling to a color constellation. And how to do it, build a color stakeholder map, a name, a role, power, primary, secondary, color, and the motive. Design a composite narrative that speaks to each. Red executive, the strategic outcome, blue finance, proof and risk, green ops, adoption stability, yellow marketing founder, story and upside. Sequence your meetings Win the blue first on feasibility, the red on business case, the green on rollout assurance, the yellow on vision. Enter the room with 2 artifacts, a one-page executive brief for the red and blue, and a people first rollout storyboard for the greens and yellows. And then reading your cohorts, because analytics matter. Create a cohort dashboard by color, blend, source, and stage. Look at the conversion rate, which is your color with your source. Look at your sales cycle length, which is the color and the deal size. Look at your average discount, which is your color plus your competitive pressure. Look at your onboarding time and first value time. Look at your cross and net retention and your expansion and your support ticket types. And then there's patterns you'll likely see. Reds close faster but churn if you oversell. Yellows expand creatively but need ongoing novelty. Greens renew reliability if rollout is gentle and supported. But blues retain longest if documentation and reporting are strong. Don't assume instrument. If your data contradicts the stereotype, your data wins. Okay. If you need more on using colors with cohorts, we've got so much content that we've designed on base of this as part of our strategy on how to read the cohorts, how to manage your sales team by cohorts and by target cohort, how to, a very in-depth automotive dealership case that we build on the different color cohorts, scripts and templates that you can lift, follow-up email frames, renewal conversation starters, pitfalls and safeguards, 30, 60, 90-day rollout plans, coaching exercises, advanced blends, the narrative closes, everything that we do have. So please reach out to us and we'll definitely want to assist you in giving you the material or training you into that step as we go. I started by saying we sometimes speak different languages. The point of using Surrounded by Idiots as a cohort tool isn't to box people, it's to build better bridges. Reds want to win. Yellows want to dream. Greens want to belong. Blues want to be right. When you honor that in your discovery, your proposals, your rollout, and your renewal, business feels human again. And human businesses last. You know, when we talk about cohorts, whether analyzing customer groups or using tools like Surrounded by Idiots to understand personalities, we're really talking about people, real, complex, unique people. And here's the ministry moment. In the kingdom, people are never numbers. Jesus didn't see the multitudes as statistics. He saw them as sheep without a shepherd. And he knew each one by name. In Matthew 18, he tells the story of leaving the 99 to go after the one. And that's cohorting in its purest form. Understanding the needs of the many without ever losing sight of the value of the one. That's relational servitude at its heart. And when we build infinite companies, we aim to build a legacy that lasts for generations. Yet, yes, we go and make money, and yes, go big, hustle, but serve, employ, care, feed, and be a co-human. In kingdom business, our goal isn't just efficiency, profit, or retention, it's stewardship. We're entrusted with relationships, with influence, and opportunities to serve. When you cohort your customers or your team members, you're not boxing them in. You're asking, how can I serve them better? How can I love them well? How can I reflect the God who meets us each uniquely where we are? Imagine what the marketplace would look like if every business leader saw their clients, staff, and even competitors through that kingdom lens. Not as obstacles or transactions, but as image bearers of God, each with a story worth honoring. So my challenge to you is this. Yes, use the tools, use the strategies, read the data, but never forget the bigger picture. we're not just building companies, we're building kingdom businesses. Businesses that don't just chase growth, but model grace. Businesses that measure success, not only in revenue, but in relationships. Businesses that leave people better than we found them. That's how we take something as simple as a cohort analysis and turn it into a kingdom impact. So next time you're looking at a chart, a sales plan, a CRM field, remember behind every color, every cohort, every data point is a person that God loves. And leading with that perspective, that's how we build something eternal.